Hello, everybody, and welcome to another week of Winners and Winers Radio. It's Monday, and I'm your host, Scott Steehn, lead handicapper over at winnersandwiners.com.
And I'm your co-host, Scott Reichel, senior handicapper over winnersandwiners.com.
And together, we make up Winners and Winers Radio. Give us an hour, and we'll give you the winners. Man, we had a lot of winners this weekend. Scott, how did it go for you?
Well, you had a lot of winners. I had a mediocre weekend. It wasn't that great, but as a whole, fine. I had a couple of bad breaks go my way, mostly involving one of the first quarter plays I gave out where I pushed because a kicker missed an extra point. I would have won that, but instead I pushed. And then I had two separate plays on San Diego State against New Mexico State. And needless to say, I'm not touching the Aztecs ever again. I'm done. I can't.
That team, I don't know, man. They've never been an offensive juggernaut, but if they can't run the ball, they've never been able to pass. I don't know what you do. You're going to have a lot of games they think end up going low there. I think they're still going to be a good under team. So,
well, I'm sure that you've had this moment before when you've been handicapping games, either for premiums or either for just YouTube videos, where you like two plays in a given game, but you have to pick which one you like more.
Right.
I loved the under 51, and I wrote a full breakdown. I made a video of it, and then at the last minute, I scrapped it, and I chose the first half minus 20 instead. The under, of course, cashed easily because it's San Diego State, and then San Diego State got their brains beaten in. They won the game, but they didn't come close to covering.
Yeah, no, and that's a dreadful New Mexico State team. Holy mackerel.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll break that down a little further about what we learned and everything like that. We got a brand new segment that we're going to roll out. It's going to be fun. And I think what we'll be doing, it'll be a regular Monday thing that we try to do. As long as there's teams that fit the criteria, and something tells me there always will be. Of course,
there's 7,000 games. We'll find something.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Of course, we'll be doing our Bet the Farm play later. We took a spin on the Northwestern Wildcats with our farm team, Scott.
I'm surprised you're even mentioning that game.
That team was just awful. Just awful. They could have been in our new segment too, but I think we've got some that really, really deserve it. So before we get started, let's do our regular segment. Let's find out the people that really, really took it bad. Talk about your bad beats. Let's see who shared your pain, Scott. You know who you are. You thought you had a winner right up until the time that you didn't. It's time for you to call the cops, folks. All right, Scott. Well, we're going to be football heavy here on this segment. Your alma mater, the Wisconsin Badgers, first half -3 up against Penn State. Penn State had one first down the entire first half. You got to think -3. You're a lock against a team that has one first down, especially when Wisconsin has two drives inside the 10. Neither one of them hit pay dirt. This game's nothing at halftime. Scott, jump around, buddy.
Words cannot describe how glad I am that I no longer go to that college.
Oh, my God. That would have just been a nightmare to have.
The amount of friends on Snapchat and, other apps who are taking photos of themselves doing the jump around and everything. And I'm thinking, like, oh, you don't know what's about to happen. Like, oh, I feel so bad. Because you're watching it and it was a couple, like 30 minutes, after the game was over, but you're starting to look through and you're like, oh, you're about to be in a world of serious pain in about 20 minutes. But anyway, looking at the other call the cops, you had a Rice +20 against Arkansas. Rice led outright by 10 points in the third quarter, which means that you basically have a live spread for the sake of this of +30, because as long as they don't get outscored by 31 the rest of the way, you win. Arkansas didn't really care because Arkansas scored 31 unanswered points, including a meaningless quote-unquote touchdown with 58 seconds left, and Rice lost by 21 points. Ouch.
A lot of sharp money on the Owls in that game, Scott. I saw a lot of chatter about Rice being a very good play, and for most of that game, it looked like that was absolutely the case. But the Hogs woke up, and they came a-calling and put the old Owls away. So if you had the West Virginia-Maryland game, a game that I was on and ended up being on the wrong side, but you had the total over 57, you had to be a happy clam after the first quarter, Scott, because the defenses couldn't stop anybody. Put up 31 points in the first quarter. You're thinking, I am golden here. And that is not exactly what happened, because the rest of the game, they put up just 23 points. Game landed on 54. If you had the West Virginia Mountaineers and the Maryland Terrapins, over 57. Man, it is time for you to call the cops.
I'm trying to imagine what the bookmakers would set the live total at if you have 31 points in a quarter.
I would think somewhere in the neighborhood
80,
of
86?
maybe, yeah, it has to be into the 80s for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you know what? There was some good news this weekend. Again, there's 150 games, so you're going to find some good news and you're going to find some bad news. And we tried to narrow it down and find out who had it the best, who had the easiest, who had the graviest of gravy trains. This is the segment that we like to call the rocking chair.
So the first one was Army plus 2.5 against Georgia State. Army led 27-7 at halftime and won the game outright 43-10. Plus 2.5.
What kind of beatdown, soldier? Army beatdown, sir.
I'm glad that Army's back to looking like a potential powerhouse because there were a couple of years there. They didn't fall apart as badly as another team we're about to mention, but they had a down year or two. It looks like they might be poised for a decent season.
Yeah, here's another team, another Service Academy team that we heard a lot about. They finally had a spring practice. Everything was looking great. They were going to be a big resurgence for the Navy. Perhaps not so much. If you had Marshall -3 over the Naval Academy, this one was really never in doubt. Scott, Navy couldn't get nada going. Led 21 zip at halftime did the Marshall Thundering Herd, and they ended up doing just exactly the same actually they did a little better. No, this did the same in the second half. They won the second half 28-7. That game ends up being 49-7. If you had Marshall -3, never a doubt for you.
In Navy's defense, they would have played better if they were on water. Anyway, looking at the last one, you had Iowa -3.5 against Indiana, and Iowa absolutely killed this team. It was a ranked game. It was supposed to be close. Not really, because Iowa led a 31-3 at the half, and then both teams just decided to go home early because you had 6 points in the second half, 34-6. Indiana got killed. Couple of pick sixes in there. Wasn't really close from start to finish.
So let me understand this, Scott. That means that Indiana was down at some point 31-3, and I don't know how exactly it broke down because I lost interest in the second half. I don't know if it was 34-3 or if it was still 31-3, but at some point, Indiana decided, you know what, we're down 4 touchdowns or more. Time to kick a field goal.
You gotta, find some positives for the next game, right?
I guess so. You and I on our standalone show there on Friday, we talked about this Indiana team. Neither one of us were impressed. We both thought Penix was maybe getting a little bit too much love. I don't think we thought they were going to be that bad, but I didn't think they were a top 15 team, which is what you had been hearing throughout the offseason. Indiana got a lot of work to do, guys. Sorry. Who's your daddy? Iowa is.
Yep, pretty much.
All right, Scott. Well, we had a tough time deciding on this one. And I don't know that we've officially decided on it yet because you and I talked about it, and then we decided to start another segment. So we're going to find out. I'm going to
kind of want to just do both.
I'm going to play the music, and we're going to find out who wins it. Congratulations, because there was a lot of competition for this one. Everybody fighting over the golden feedback. Scott, let's find out who won the weekend edition of Donkey of the Day. Yeah, I'm letting that one play all the way. It certainly deserves it.
So I'm going to ask you, since we haven't officially decided yet, on the fly, do you want to do the one that you think is the most deserving, and then I'll do the other one?
Okay, I will. I'll start it off with a game close to home, Scott. This was a nail-biter. It came down to a last-second touchdown, and there is joy in Larryville because the KU Jayhawks, Scott, they are on their way. They recorded a nice win over who?
South Dakota.
Not the good South Dakota, not the Jackrabbits, not SDSU. This is South Dakota University. Not a good team at all. KU fans win the game against an FCS squad and then promptly storm the field and tear down the goalpost. Holy mackerel. That is just sad. I'm sorry. I don't care how many games you've lost in a row. If you beat an FCS team, you could certainly stay around and clap and be happy. Don't storm the field. And certainly, for God's sakes, don't tear down the goalpost. It's KU football. You're losing money. They may not have extra money to put up another goalpost because Bill Self, he guards that basketball purse pretty tight, Scott. So they could be playing with one set of goalposts for this season. I don't even know.
And looking at the other potential option, you have Miami, because I know on the show, thought that Miami would once again fall apart in a big game, and Bama absolutely killed them. However, I think the peak of the comedy for the Hurricanes was the turnover chain celebration, because they forced the turnover down 27 points, brought out the chain, celebrated, and then the play was overturned, and there was no actual turnover in the first place. So
you have a couple back in the box. Put it back in the box.
You have a couple of layers there. One, I get that every team now celebrates the takeaways with their own quirky thing, and I'm pretty sure Miami's the one who started it. You're down 27 points. There needs to be some type of unwritten rule that if you're down like 3 possessions, maybe your defense shouldn't be partying while you're getting embarrassed in your own home stadium.
Yeah, that's just the quintessential no class to me. So we have two competitors for Donkey of the Day, both very classless moves in my point.
I'd probably side with Kansas if I had to, if one of us had to move to the other side. The Miami one's bad, but at the end of the day, a lot of other teams would still keep the celebration. This isn't just Miami that celebrated for a turnover down 30. I'm sure that's happened a bunch of times last year when everyone started doing their own quirky thing for the defense. But the Kansas Jayhawks beating a team that they paid to show up, by the way. I'm assuming they paid South Dakota to show up because it was an FCS team.
Yeah.
So you beat a team that you paid to show up as a tune-up game. You're favored by 11.5.
Yeah, you didn't beat the number.
No, you won on a last-minute touchdown, and then you rip the place to shreds like you upset a top 10 team in the country. That's pretty bad.
I haven't seen that much carnage in Lawrence since Quantrell's Raiders hit town. That's a little joke for you history majors out there. Well, Scott, let's do our news segment. We don't even have music for this yet. We don't even have a drop. We literally came up with it. This is a segment, Scott, called "I'm Not Mad, I'm Just Disappointed." Did you hear that as a kid, by the way?
I was truthfully a relatively well-behaved kid, so not really. I'm sure a couple of times here and there, but not as much as I'd say other kids have gotten in the past.
I heard it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I heard it a lot. We're not mad. We're just disappointed. So, Scott, this is a segment is going to be reserved for teams that have put up especially horrific performances, just mind-boggling, jaw-dropping. I'm sorry, what now? Type of performances. KU didn't make the list because they ended up winning. But Scott, we've got some on the list. Who do you like for "I'm Not Mad, I'm Just Disappointed"?
So for this one, I'm going to start off going out of order. I know you put it randomly. I'm going to vote for Washington.
Okay.
Minus 22.5 against Montana.
Okay.
The other 2 teams we're going to mention were supposed to be bad.
Yep.
Washington was an alleged dark horse candidate to win the Pac-12.
You liked them, didn't you?
I did originally until I looked more into Morris, and then I completely was off the train. I even said I liked Montana and the under in the joint video. So I completely flip-flopped on that Washington team. I don't think Morris is any good, and he proved me right. Jimmy Lake, I don't know what he's doing as coach since he took over for Peterson. Nothing productive because you were at home and you lost to an FCS team that you probably paid $1 million to show up. But Montana's been a good FCS team. I'll give him props for that. You're favored by 3 touchdowns, and you don't score in they didn't score in the final 3 quarters of the game?
Yeah, it's hard to believe. It was just a stunning. Washington literally led 7-3 after the first quarter and then didn't score again. Nobody scored in the second and third quarter. And then Montana said, "Well, I guess if you're not going to score, we might as well score some more." And they ended up scoring 10 in the final frame.
I don't know how you get shut out for 3 quarters against an FCS team at home.
No,
that can't happen.
No, I mean that's even worse than having to sit there and watch that Wisconsin game.
They were the equivalent of Penn State in the first quarter or the first half offensively, but at home for basically the entire game.
Just brutal. I don't know what this team is going to do in the Pac-12. I mean,
they can't play offense. I mean, we talked about San Diego. at the top of the hour, we talked about San Diego State and how that team can throw the ball. Morris cannot throw the ball. This team needs to switch quarterbacks or try something, or even just, leave the coach when you travel to Michigan next week. You got to try something different.
Well, they can't run and they can't pass. Other than that, they're fine because, Morris averaged 4.9 yards per attempt. So that's not good. Through
What are you, Cam Newton last year? Throw the ball downfield.
Right. And then we'll just run the ball down their throat. Well, they ran the ball 26 times, got 53 yards. So there was 2 yards a carry.
They got dominated.
You literally can't run, you can't pass against Montana. Good luck in the Pac-12, boys, because you are going to need it.
But we got to talk about some of the other nominees here.
Yep, we will. And a quick reminder to everybody that you are listening to Winners and Winers Radio. Give us an hour, and we'll give you the winners, and we'll spruce in some stuff there that just entertains the dickens out of us. Scott, we got to talk about this Vanderbilt team again. A team that this is not a disappointment. I mean, it is, because they lost to a bad FCS team, Eastern Tennessee State. They were a 12-point favorite in that one. Scott, how much they ended up dropping that one by?
They were actually favored by 21. Sorry, they were favored by 21 in that game.
By 21?
Yeah, they were favored by 3 touchdowns.
Did you tell me 12?
I said 21, but the point is they were favored by multiple touchdowns. It was 21. Either way, we talked about how awful that offense was. You scored 3 points at home against an FCS team. How do you get blown out at home by 20? And first of all, it's good for me. If you remember the win totals, which so far, fingers crossed, every team that I had over won, and every team that I had under lost in week 1. So far, so good on all the props. But I had Vanderbilt under 3.5. Somehow it was 3.5. I don't know how. Do you think it's too early to pop the champagne on that one?
Yeah, but only because I'm a superstitious guy. I would say, at the risk of a jinx, I would say you got this one.
I was going to say the only risk you have is a COVID forfeit.
Yeah.
That's basically it. This team stinks.
Yeah, absolutely true. Absolutely true. And the last one, this is a game that, again, a team that was supposed to be bad. They were just a 3-point dog, Scott, and that's Colorado State. They played South Dakota State, the good one, the Jackrabbits. And it wasn't so much the fact that they lost the game, that they were just, and this actually switched, is South Dakota State opened up as a 3-point favorite, and then actually money just poured in on the Rams. But it's the fact that they weren't very competitive. They were competitive a little bit in the first quarter and then just went off the rails. They end up losing by 19, and that's only because they put up 2 meaningless touchdowns in the fourth quarter to give it just a hint of respectability. It was not a respectable defeat. Colorado State was never in this game after at least the first 10 minutes or so. Awful, awful defeat. Again, a team they paid to show up there in Fort Collins, and they were rewarded by an absolute beatdown.
In Colorado State's defense, by the way, I did hear the South Dakota State's first-string and second-string quarterbacks are pretty good.
Yeah, well, we didn't get to see either one of them, so they probably are. We got to see the third-string quarterback, Scott, and you know what? He's pretty damn good too.
Yeah.
So they literally have at least, I don't know what the fourth-string guys like, but they at least have 3 quarterbacks that are better than anybody that plays for Colorado State.
Pretty much.
Brutal. Just brutal. It's going to be a long season for the Rams there.
We also gave some pity to UConn because we just feel bad at this point. We just didn't include them.
They're not really like an FBS team.
No, we gave them the pass. We know that they lost. We didn't forget they lost to Holy Cross, but we'll let them have some time. The coach is going to leave after. It's fine. We know.
Yeah, Randy Edsel, that drove him away. He's like, I don't know what I'm doing.
At least they scored a touchdown.
They tried. They were ahead there in the second half. They
tried. Whatever.
They puked it away late.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, Scott, when you said in Colorado State's defense, that's the first time those words have been ever used in the same sentence in the last 5 years.
I also use it satirically because I was mentioning the first and string quarterbacks that didn't play for South Dakota State. Yeah. So it all goes full circle.
It's the circle of life. All right. Very good. Oh, this is a fun one, Scott. Let's find out who opened the bottle, who popped the top a little bit too much as far as the odds makers go. There was definitely some drunk odds out there, but I think we've got the best one because the odds makers, they were definitely drunk. Dion. What's he up to these days, Scotty?
I believe it's Coach Dion. You got to show some respect.
Oh, my bad.
But anyway, he's coaching at Jackson State, and they actually played a game yesterday. They were underdogs against Florida A&M, and they won outright. But the interesting part about the game was the total. Now, Deion Sanders, probably the greatest defensive back to ever play in the history of football. Wouldn't you assume that his teams would be pretty good at defense?
You think so? Yeah, sure.
You'd think so. So the total in this game was 60 and a half.
That doesn't sound like much defense.
Jackson State won the game. They scored 7 points.
Ooh.
They won 7-6. The game went under by about 47 points.
Oh, Scott, the Oddsmakers, they had a great weekend. They're having a good time. They've got all their money and their time focused on the Notre Dame, Florida State game. So they didn't have to worry about the Deion Sanders led Jackson State 60 and a half. Come on. Oh, man. All right. Scott, I know there's some people that took a beating here on this one. The gambling hero of the day. Who is our gambling hero today? Let's find out. And of course, we need the fanfare. Hear ye, hear ye. Scott, would you unroll the scroll and share with our audience who the hero of the day is?
So, after a weekend where you remember how important good special teams is, we're going to look at a kicker. And it's going to be Oklahoma's kicker, Gabe Burkich, who made a 51-yarder with about 8 minutes to go in the first half. And then he also made a 56-yarder as time expired in the first half. And you might be wondering why that was significant. And the reason is because Oklahoma was winning by 20 at the time of the 56-yarder, and the first half spread was 20 and a half. So because he made a 56-yarder and a 51-yarder about 8 minutes prior, Oklahoma led by 23 at halftime and covered the first half spread.
Unbelievable. By the way, I think that was his 21st and 22nd field goal in a row that he had made.
He's really, really good.
He has the longest stretch in current streak in D1 right now.
My favorite kicker was still Patterson from Memphis, but Burkich really, really good.
All right, very good. So, Scott, had the Florida State Notre Dame game last night. We haven't talked a lot about that. A lot going on in that game. Was that your favorite game of the weekend? Is that the best game of the season so far?
Yeah, I think it was the best game. By the way, for the record, he's now my favorite kicker because Patterson's no longer in college, but he's very, very good.
What's Patterson doing?
He's a free agent, just chilling.
Going to get some insurance from him?
I'm actually shocked he's a free agent. I thought he was the best kicker in all of college last year. But anyway, looking at the actual Florida State game, yeah, I thought it was the best game of the overall weekend, probably of week 0 as well. Just a great game from start to finish. A lot to unravel with this game, or to unwrap, I should say. You want to go first? You want me to go first?
I will. I a couple of thoughts because I was on the wrong side of this. I had Notre Dame minus the 7 points. I really thought I knew the defense probably wouldn't be quite as dominant as they were last year, but this is a defense that had been very good, especially against bad teams. I thought they would step up and be able to stop the run. You know what? I thought a lot of things about the Notre Dame defense really, and none of them ended up coming true. If you look at the stat line, it's not awful against that defense, but giving up 35 points to Florida State with, I don't know, one of the worst quarterbacking performances we've seen in a while there in the first 3 quarters or so before Milton came in.
Yeah.
Not good at all. You can point some fingers. Is Norville trying to keep Milton a little healthier? What is he really believe Milton is the second best quarterback on that team? I mean, does somebody made that decision going, well, he's not quite as good? You with me on this?
Well, just to quickly correct you, they gave up 28 points to Travis, and then Milton led them to the final 10. So Florida State scored 38 in the end.
Oh, it was 41-38. That's right. I thought it was 38-35.
But anyway, Milton was clearly
right, Notre Dame had the 38-20 lead and then just did nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but anyway, looking at the actual game itself, Travis was awful. We already know this. Am I going to blame him fully? No, the offensive line also stunk, so that also played a factor. But Milton, you can ask yourself kind of two questions. One, was he the best quarterback during the offseason? And B, was he ever actually going to play, or was he just a great story? Because Milton was clearly better, And I don't know why you'd start Travis unless you're going to treat it like Washington did with Alex Smith, wait for an injury or something, and then suddenly you're forced to throw him into the game with no other option. The only reason why Milton came in was because Travis had to ended up having his helmet taken off in a play and he had to go to the sideline. So he only came in on a technicality, and then they stayed with him for the end. So Travis didn't even get benched. He just got pulled because of the helmet rule in college.
Well, he pipped the helmet out of him.
Yeah.
Brutal.
And
See,
then
I didn't
Milton
see
ended
that.
up staying. Yeah.
I was at a family event. I was trying to watch as much as I could on my phone, but I didn't see. Obviously, I didn't have the sound up, so some of the intricacies of the game, I did not. So I'm gonna have to lean on you for some of that. But I got the overall timber, and I watched that Notre Dame defense just not be able to stop them and save my spread.
Norvell, let's just put it this way, since I watched the entire game, he was brutal. Now, people are going to point to one specific situation in overtime on why he was brutal, and I actually defend Norvell in that spot, so I'm going to get to that in a second. The main issues that I have with Norvell are the fact that he chose to use the clearly inferior quarterback to start the game and play 3 quarters. Milton should have came in when you were down 18 points. Second of all, it's 4th and 2. You're down 11. I believe it was 11. And they went for it on their own 28-yard line or something like that. What are you doing? It's the 3rd quarter. Punt the ball. What are you doing?
You sound like somebody that had a punt on that drive at plus 105, Scott.
I did. I was betting drive props. I had Florida State to punt on that drive, and they went for it on 4th and 2. My initial thought was you're going to try to draw them off sides. You'll take the delay game, and you'll punt. And they snapped the ball, and I thought, what are you doing? And then it didn't work out. But anyway, that was the main 2 issues I had with Norvell, not even just biasly. You just can't go for it there, down 11 in the 3rd quarter on 4th and 2. You just can't do that. But looking at those 2 moves, not starting Milton in the 4th quarter decision, those are the 2 I'll roast Norvell for. The one everyone's roasting him for is the overtime decision where he allegedly iced his own kicker. That did not happen. I'm going to quickly go through it. I don't want to take too much time on this, but it was supposed to be a 50-something yarder because you had a tuck rule appearance in 2021. That's right. Apparently the tuck rule is still a thing. It's the stupidest rule in sports. Even if you think it's an incompletion, it should be an intentional grounding because the ball went 1 foot. But I digress. The point is that Florida State sent the field goal unit on late to attempt the 50-yarder in overtime. The play clock, if you watch it, is running down. They're not set on time. And then a timeout's called. The kicker kicks it anyway for a freebie, and he makes the 50-yarder. The play clock was completely at 0. The kick would not have counted. It would have been delay a game. They had to call timeout. Plus, they ended up challenging the tuck rule play that was called the fumble, and they actually gave the kicker an extra 9 yards if they moved the ball upward, and the kicker missed the shorter kick. So people all over Twitter are cursing out Norvell for icing his own kicker. No, he didn't. Rewatch the play and look at the play clock. There was a 0% chance that was not going to get called for delay again.
Okay. Yeah.
It was a long rant. Norvell was bad, but I'm defending him in overtime.
Oh, that's okay. You got to call him like you see him. You got to play it straight up. Yeah, I think there's going to be plenty to roast him for the rest of the season. I wouldn't be a bit surprised there.
I think he's a terrible coach. I was roasting him the entire game, but the overtime choice, people are so quick to talk about the icing your own kicker. Oh, my God. Rewatch the play. Look at the play clock. That's all I'm telling you. It's delay game.
I like Twitter, and sometimes I really hate Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I remember why we didn't need to hear instant reaction from everyone in America about everything.
Yep, pretty much.
But then again, I'm old. I step out on my porch and yell at clouds, so that's kind of what I do. But, Twitter youths. All right, so did you have a play on that game? Did you do anything?
The drive prop. No, I didn't have anything on the actual game. Truth is, I was torn in between. I really thought about taking Florida State first half, and I chose not to, just because it seems like in these primetime games, at least early trend, the home team has actually done really well.
Right.
When it comes to just riding the crowd momentum. I thought
especially with the Bowden thing.
Yeah, with the Bowden stuff, I thought Florida State would keep it close, and then Notre Dame would eventually blow it open.
Yeah.
I ended up just staying pat. I didn't do anything. once Norvell went for it on 4th and 2 at his own whatever, and I'd punt, I'm just like, I'm done. I didn't bother. And probably a good thing.
All right, very good. Hey, we'll be back to take a look and talk about the other games that we saw this weekend right after this message. Stay tuned, everybody. I know people ask us on why I pound the desk, and it's just so I've got that marker on each side. So when I go through and edit later, guys, I've got two very distinct markers that I can just cut out that segment. I don't have to go through and listen to us and try to figure out exactly where that spot is. So that's why. If anybody wonders why I pound the desk, it's because I'm mad at Scott every time at 30 minutes into the video.
Pretty much.
All right. Very good. You shaved your beard off, buddy? What's going
I
on?
did.
What happened to the chin strap?
I look 12 now. I should have kept the beard. I shaved it, and I've been struggling winning since. Should have kept it.
You shaved your victory beard?
I don't even call it a victory beard. We're giving up picks every day, but maybe in hindsight, maybe that could have been the deciding factor.
5 seconds. Here we go. All right, everybody, welcome back to the second half of Winners and Winers Radio. Give us an hour, and we'll give you the winners. By the way, we should have a new commercial coming up pretty soon, Scott. I know everybody's getting tired of listening to that one because I know I am. So
we got to pay the film crew.
I know, right? Very good. All right, my friend. Well, there was more than just the one game over the weekend. What were some of the other no surprising situations for you? Syntaxes for.
I'm not sure if it was really a surprise or not. I know you had this team in one of your 3 picks for the weekend show for college football. I said after week 1, I gave Hawaii a pass for getting killed because I thought UCLA was just a really good football team from what I saw quickly.
Right.
That's a good team. That's a top 25 team.
Absolutely.
Like they're good. If you want to talk about live bets or bets mid-season, they could maybe win the Pac-12. I think they're actually that good.
I agree. Yeah, I was I made that pick and then, found out I was going into the teeth of every sharp in the world who was on LSU, free money getting LSU right there. And I still didn't see it. I like this UCLA team. I like the quarterback. I know more than you do.
I like Charbonnet a lot more than the quarterback, but I thought the advantage was UCLA played a game already. It was a home game, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, you had a lot of advantages just off the field in general that should have helped you out.
Chardonnay. What are you, a 50-year-old woman?
Well, you could ask him. That's his last name. Guy can run, though. Good running back.
Charbonnet, yeah. Oh, yeah, he's a good running back. Scott, can anybody beat Alabama?
Great question. Probably not, but we'll see. Then again, I'm not going to overreact because we both knew Miami was going to stink in this game. Yeah. We knew it. We knew it was coming. We're going to pat ourselves on the back for this one because we both said Manny Diaz always underperforms in big games. And in the season openers, Bama tends to kill whoever they play against. And Bama rolled in this game. So I'm not shocked. I'm not going to overreact to it. I guess my question for you is, who do you think had a worse coaching day just based on result? Diaz against Bama or Orgeron against UCLA? Orgeron, I'll tell you what, I know he won a national champion. He's a national champion and everything. Are we sure that he's actually a decent football coach?
No, we're not.
Because I don't think he is.
We know that he was able to recruit Joe Burrow and bring in the quarterback whisperer.
Are we sure that Joe Brady isn't like the secret sauce behind the entire operation?
That's what I'm saying. He brought in Brady. He's with Carolina now, of course.
It's like you're looking at the Falcons when they had Matt Ryan's MVP year, and then suddenly Kyle Shanahan leaves, and Matt Ryan goes back to being an average quarterback, and you go, maybe Shanahan was the reason why that offense was so good. That might be the case with LSU. I know Burrow being there was great and all. Orgeron, I don't know how long you can hold on to him if you're LSU because you have serious expectations for some reason every year. They're just not on the same level, and they're arguably the same level as Auburn, I would say. Is that a fair comparison?
Yeah, I would. That sounds about right. And based on how Auburn played, they may not even be that good.
They played Akron, so I'm gonna call them a tie.
I understand. And listening to Orgeron talk reminds me of
Go Tigers.
It reminds me of the character in The Waterboy. Blake Clark played.
Yeah.
Like you do the occasional thing, man. I can't even do that. So All right, so Alabama, and the worst part about Alabama rolling is you see all these stupid things and all these stupid comments. Do you think Alabama could beat an NFL team? What
No.
NFL team? No, they couldn't beat an NFL team. You know why? Because they have skill position players that are as good, if not better, than Alabama's at every position. So just stop it. Just stop it. Alabama could not beat an NFL team. Stop asking stupid questions.
I think Bama maybe could
Don't even
keep
say
it.
it.
I was going to say it maybe to 17 points.
We talked about this earlier about who's the worst team. Who do we decide the worst team was? Houston.
It's probably the Texans. Yeah,
17-point favorite over Bama.
I think 17's a fair number.
Yeah, that's okay. That's right. Is that? Would you call that a competitive game? Is that a close game? Does that deserve being praiseworthy? Of Alabama could beat whatever.
If they were ever going to pull off a shocking upset like that, they would need an abysmal coach on the other side. I'm not sure if Culley's any good, so I'm going to have to wait and see on that one.
Bill O'Brien's the offensive coordinator for who right now? Where'd he go?
Is he offensive coordinator somewhere?
Yeah, Bill O'Brien was offensive coordinator at college.
Oh, at a college.
Yeah. God, no. They don't even – they changed all the locks in the NFL, Bill O'Brien.
I thought you meant the NFL. I'm like, I don't know who you're talking about. I thought he was like an associate at Bama.
That's right. Yeah, he's the OC. He's the OC and quarterbacks coach at Bama.
Oh, that's right. He is the OC. I thought they put him. Okay, never mind.
He replaced Sarkisian.
Okay, whatever. I'll take. Yeah. So that doesn't really go. That kind of goes full circle, then, doesn't it? But anyway, I'm trying to think of any other takeaways that I had.
What about the big game? What about the Georgia Clemson game? What'd you learn there?
I learned that you can rip up your ukulele Heisman tickets already. That Georgia defense really good. The Georgia offense not so much.
Are you kidding? Wait a minute. Are you kidding me? I wrote it out phonetically for you.
I did it just to annoy you.
Oh my God.
Ugalele?
Now you got me doing it. I hate you so much.
Okay. I'll go.
Uagalele.
Okay. Either way, he's not winning the Heisman.
No, he's not. No.
Clemson can still potentially make the playoff. Truth is, the ACC with Miami getting killed and North Carolina losing to Virginia Tech, even if Clemson runs the table, would you even take Clemson? I'm not even sure if I would take Clemson.
That's what I wanted to talk about, because that's all the talk on Twitter. All the sharp people, the people that have the blue check marks. Hate to break it to you folks, but if Clemson wins out from there, they're going to the national championship.
They might. I wouldn't take them. The ACC stinks.
No. How do you take them? So you're going to take them over Georgia? Is that what you're going to do?
I don't know how you're supposed to take them over Georgia, and you can go through the other conferences and try to see. Oklahoma might lose one. We'll see what happens there. We can talk about Rattler if you want to. I don't want to spend too much time going through the Heisman stuff because it's just 1 week, but I was not impressed by Rattler at all.
No. His stat line ended up being okay.
It was okay, but you threw 2 picks against Tulane. Come on. Like, we went into the season and said, I don't know why he's the projected number 1 pick. He makes a lot of stupid decisions, and he had 2 picks. Could have been more against Tulane. He was really awful.
He'll make a lot of stupid decisions. So
the way I'm looking at it for Clemson, just to go back to the point, if Oklahoma ends up winning the conference, I think they're going to lose a game. That Oklahoma team is not good enough to run the table. They're going to lose at some point. So maybe if you're talking about Clemson versus Oklahoma in a 1-loss situation, I would take Clemson. But you're assuming Bama's going to get in. If Georgia runs the table and loses to Bama in the conference title game,
yes,
they're getting in.
Yes.
Pac-12, like, no, but maybe. I don't know.
See, when I put down the topics for today, I put down as a joke topic. Let's discuss if the SEC gets just 2 or 3 teams.
I don't know if Ohio State's going undefeated either. Like,
I don't know, man. We got to see what this first week, how that if that's really an indicator of what these teams look like. Because
the only thing I know is if you could get live lines on Clemson to maybe miss the playoff, I don't know what the line would be.
Yeah.
I think it's more appealing than people think, because I'm sure we would agree Clemson, with how weak the ACC is, should still destroy everyone in the conference. But why am I going to, I'd say go and give you more excuses and more reasons why you deserve to get in? You scored 3 points. Why do I think you're worthy of being a playoff team?
Am I the only one who's about done with the Dabo show?
What do you mean by that?
Oh, just his whole act is just wearing a little thin on me.
Which act? You mean like just being the upbeat guy with the southern drawl
Yeah,
and
but then he does the weird passive aggressive where he bitches about things where this isn't fair, or, whatever. Like I'm over Dabo.
I
Sorry,
mean like how we shouldn't have played Ohio State because I had them ranked like 9th in my own rankings.
that kind of thing. Yeah.
How'd that go for him?
I'm looking.
It wasn't
I'm
good for
looking.
Clemson.
I'm looking at this schedule here, Scott, and you're right. It is an easy schedule. They've got to go. They've got to go to Pittsburgh.
They're going to run the table, and they're probably going to get in.
They could. I'm not even sure that's going to happen. They've got, but really the only tough games they have, if you can call them those, is they go at Pittsburgh and they play Boston College, and they go to North Carolina State too, buddy.
NC State, I still like. I think that if there's one team in the ACC to give Clemson a run, I actually think it would be NC State because they can play defense and score, so they actually are well-rounded. But Clemson didn't impress me. Then again, it's really only competing against Georgia if it comes to the two of them fighting for a spot. If they have one loss and Oklahoma has one loss, Clemson's going to get in because Georgia's still a top 5 team in the country. I just don't think that team's very good.
No, I totally agree. I wasn't overly impressed by Ohio State, although they look like a team that has potential. They look like a team that has the potential to be very good once they get everything worked out. Clemson did not look like a team with potential.
Ohio State reminded me of Oklahoma. They had a lot of playmakers on offense. The defense stunk.
Yep. Louisiana didn't really show up against Texas. Did you think that one would be a little closer?
I'll give props to Sarkisian. He got his team prepared for the opener better than Herman ever did.
Yeah. Louisiana found out how hard it is to win a game against an FBS team when you don't get 3 special teams touchdowns.
They tried. San Jose State tried. They kept it close for a little bit against USC before losing. I'm not going to really take anything away. Oregon struggled, but that was a clear look.
Fresno State was a nice effort there against Oregon.
I was going to say Oregon struggled, but then again, we talked about the look-ahead spot in the YouTube show, so I'm not surprised that with Ohio State on deck, they weren't exactly, I'd say, planning fully for this Fresno State team. But yeah, that was kind of the main takeaways that I had. It was just that some of these top teams didn't really look very good, and Bama looks like world beaters again.
Well, I'll give you another one. This is a team that I was actually high on, Scott, but I did tell you on the Friday show on our standalone college football special, said weird things happen in Iowa when Northern Iowa and these teams get involved. And that's exactly what happened. That's a Northern Iowa team that had a lead there for a while, kept it close all the way through. Iowa State ends up winning 16-10. Just an ugly, ugly game.
Iowa State. It's also a look-at spot because Iowa State has Iowa up next.
Yep, that's a big game. And weird things. I'm telling you, that round robin series doesn't matter where anybody's ranked. You always hear the cliche. You can throw out the records, and you really can when it comes to those teams. And then we had a lot of teams that beat up on the little sisters of the poor. Of course, Cincinnati looked really good against Miami of Ohio. Texas A&M looked good against Kent State, which, Kent State, they're not nothing. So that was, that's a decent win to win that convincingly. They were going to win, but USC looked good.
That USC game was very close before they scored a touchdown or two. I believe they had a pick 6 at some point in the fourth quarter.
Will Indiana be ranked again in the top 25 this season, Scott?
I'll say.
Are they going to let them hang on one more week? Are they going to keep them at like 23, 24?
I think they'll keep them for one more week because they lost to a ranked team on the road.
Fair enough.
Do I think they're going to be ranked by year's end? Probably not.
Yeah, no. I think that the first time they run into even a minor speed bump, they're done.
But I think right now there are 2 teams that were unranked that are either going to be ranked really shortly or should be by year's end, and that's UCLA and NC State. I think those teams are clearly top 25 teams.
So is Tulane better than we thought they were, or is Oklahoma worse, or was it just one of those Oklahoma games? You and I talked before the show. I've seen this Oklahoma show before. It's the same game they played against Kansas State the last 2 times they played, where they get off to a big lead, and then they just kind of Andy Reid it in the second quarter. They get very, very conservative. They play not to lose. I don't understand it. You're out there and you're beating the hell out of this team, and you take your foot off the gas. Can you explain it to me?
I'm more shocked Michael Pratt outplayed Rattler for pretty much the entire game. And Pratt was good. And last year he wasn't. He was so close to converting that 4th and 15. He was 1 yard short on that run. But
how do you feel about the hit on him?
I didn't have an issue with the penalty. I thought it was no penalty. It was fine. They're making a tackle. The guy's already in the air. I didn't have a problem with it. You?
It's one of those things where I've seen it called before. It was, as of course by that point I've had Oklahoma to cover, so I'm I know I'm not going to win.
You're unbiased at that point.
So well, at that point I'm rooting for Tulane.
Yeah,
I really am, because you know how I like to punish teams that end up
course.
screwing me. So yeah, I just hope you guys lose. But so I thought it was real borderline. I thought it certainly could have been called.
I was fine with no call.
It wasn't egregious that it wasn't. It wasn't as egregious as not calling the targeting in the Ohio State Minnesota game.
I still can't believe that wasn't called.
That was egregious, and it worked in my favor. So I'm not complaining about it.
There's also a brutal call in the Florida State game. I've noted how that wasn't roughing the punter.
Yeah,
but you have a couple of really bad calls, and that one was one that I wouldn't say they got it right, but to decide a game, I was fine with the refs letting everything work itself out.
And I think that's certainly a homer call. If that's the other team, if it's going the other way, I think
you might call that
more likely of a call. Yeah, absolutely the case. So, quick reminder, everybody, you are listening to Winners and Whiners Radio. Give us an hour, we'll give you the winners. Of course, we have a lot of breakdowns and features today, mainly guys because don't have a ton of games. We've only got 3 baseball games and 1 football game. So normally where we're kind of going wall to wall and laying out more picks, just don't have a ton of picks today. So, we will eventually get to them. I'm just looking up and down the board here. Coastal looks good. Of course, they played the Citadel, so that really didn't Grayson McCall, and I'm so mad at myself, Scott. I took the Citadel there plus the points.
Well, you said that they couldn't get a stop, and
yeah, they couldn't get it. Well, and Coastal, they had their foot on the gas on the last drive, like again completing a 30-yard pass that was this is absolutely brutal. So good for them. It's a team that has made me so much money, and I felt like I was cheating on my wife. I'm going to be honest. I felt like I was cheating when I took the other side. And that's what happens to cheaters, Scott. You get burned. You end up being on Maury or Springer or something. So I like this Coastal team, still do, and I'll try not to fade them for the rest of the season.
Fair enough.
All right, we'll see what happens there. So we got a game tonight. It should be a fun game. Are you excited?
I'm excited. It feels good that I'll be watching in the same position Lane Kiffin will be because he's not going to be on the sideline.
I was wondering about that. Do you think he's in constant contact with him?
We had this conspiracy theory about Saban last year when there were rumors about maybe something in somebody's ear and he's on a phone call because he had COVID.
Why is that a bad deal? He's not suspended.
No, I know.
I don't even know why you got to be sneaky about it.
I don't know, but remember that was the talking point last year. I don't know. I think he probably had his fingerprints all over the game plan. Do I think he's going to be talking to the team maybe at halftime if you want to call for a speech or something? But nah, if you are paying the assistant coaches that much money, I'm assuming you trust them to coach if something would happen to you hypothetically.
Right.
I don't really think he's going to have a voice in the ear during the game, maybe at halftime, but pregame is where he's going to do all the stuff.
Well, and I don't know if they've officially announced who's going to be the quote unquote head coach. I know it comes down to the DC or the OC, but Scott, the guy that's going to be calling the plays is the OC, the offensive coordinator, Jeff Lebby. And he's pretty much the architect of this air corral offense that
you said it.
Ole Miss runs. I'm trying to get it started, buddy.
Okay, cool.
So I'm trying to get it out there. Like I said, it's just been tweeted one time. Just one time is all the hashtags I could find.
I mentioned it before we actually went on air. I don't know if it came up, but it just popped into my head.
Yeah, air corral is very funny, and of course we're speaking of the quarterback Matt Corral of Ole Miss, who, by the way, kids, if you want to take a flyer on a Heisman guy, 15-1, Matt Corral, Scott.
Bunch of stats.
Just saying.
I'm just saying he's going to put up some huge numbers.
He is going to put up some huge numbers. So this is a Louisville Cardinals team, man.
They're there.
They ain't good, and they got way younger. You
usually pencil them in for 5 to 7 wins, usually 6.
Yep. And
I like Ole Miss.
They're going to struggle to get there. Yeah, I think you have to.
The only issue you have with Ole Miss is, do you think that Lane Kiffin makes that much of a difference on the sidelines? But roster-wise, the environment at home on a weekday, I'm assuming the crowd's going to be going crazy in Mississippi. That Ole Miss team should easily score 45, 50, really whatever they want to, because Louisville's defense isn't exactly a strength of this team.
No, they weren't. They weren't good, and they just bring back 6 starters, Scott.
They're going to get torched.
It's the old question about, well, if you have a crappy defense and half of them don't come back, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't think it's a great thing because you've got a really, really young team here. So my question to you, I think you and I both don't want any part of Louisville in this game. How do you feel about the total?
If I had to play it, I'd go over just
Okay.
because Ole Miss's defense we know is not great. Ole Miss offensively goes up tempo. If you think Ole Miss is going to score 50 or more like I do, you have to take the over because Louisville isn't bad enough to score less than, I'd say, 27 points against this defense.
Cunningham's a legitimate player.
I see like 55 to 31 type of game.
Okay.
You?
You know, I want to think this Mississippi defense has gotten better. Then again, I want to believe unicorns exist. And
Ole Miss's defense with Lane Kiffin as coach. That's the thing. You said I don't know who's going to take over the offensive coordinator or the defensive coordinator. I'm not sure what the point of having a defensive coordinator is when you're going to give up 40 points a game.
For the record, Scott, they scored 39 points a game last season and gave up 38.
Yep.
They were, I believe, 14th in scoring offense, and they were 117th out of 127 schools in scoring defense.
Yep, pretty much.
Not good.
They almost beat Bama, though, last year.
They gave them all they wanted. They gave them absolutely all they wanted. So some of the totals, I mean, that's the thing. That's the thing about Mississippi, about Ole Miss.
It's the totals that are going to be brutal to bet.
Yeah,
but you can't really take the under.
I think at some point you can. I think there's just going to be value on the on the under. You got.
There will at some point. I'm not taking that shot against this Louisville defense with pretty much no experience. That's not the spot.
I don't think this is the spot. You know, the only thing is that there's just such a high number. If you get a couple of turnovers, if you get like a 10 or 12 minute dry spell.
You know, Kiffin's also going for it on 4th down, so you can get a couple of failed conversion attempts and stuff like that.
Well, you know, this is just to give you some idea of this Ole Miss team. It's a team that scored 35 on Florida, 48 on Alabama, 48 on LSU, and 28 on Auburn. What do they have in common, Scott? What do those 4 games have in common?
On a Corral went nuts. I'm not sure.
They lost every one of them.
Oh, okay, cool.
They lost every one of those games. So again, scoring 48 twice, lost it. Scoring 35, lost it.
I can't take the under. I can't do it.
All right, fair enough. I'm going to go with the theory that Ole Miss is probably the defense has gotten a little better because they can't have gotten any worse, and they did hold. Indiana.
I think they got better. I just
Indiana to 20 in the bowl game.
I just said they're only going to give up 31 in comparison to their 38 last year. So I think there's going to be improvement. But Louisville, if you expect the Kiffin team to take its foot off the gas, you're mistaken. They might put up 60.
Yeah, it's certainly possible. It's certainly possible. All right, now we mentioned the fact, Scott, it is Labor Day. By the way, happy Labor Day to everybody. All you laborers out there, backbone of the country, you know who you are. Thanks for laboring. We appreciate it. Enjoy your day off. Enjoy a bunch of daytime baseball because we got a ton, Scott. We've only got 3 night games tomorrow, so
we're saving one of them, so we got 2 games to talk about.
Right, they're all dandies. They're all dandies. First of all, you've got Minnesota, Cleveland, Bailey Ober, Logan Allen. Minnesota's a favorite, Scott. What are we doing here?
Ober's actually been decent, but I'm looking at the over. At the end of the day, Minnesota's a team that we know the bullpen stinks. Cleveland's bullpen hasn't been great either lately. But both starters, Allen hasn't been great this year. Cleveland's offense has been better lately. Reyes has kind of been going crazy. I like the over. I think you'll see runs in that one. You?
Unger?
I like the over. I like the over with Ober. You?
I don't hate that. I think that's fine. Texas, LA. It's the Angels and the Rangers. Scott opened up 148. People pounding the Rangers behind Alexei against Berea.
Yeah.
I don't see it going that way.
I like the Angels if I had to make a pick.
I got to play the Angels here. I don't care that money's coming in on Texas.
I backed Alexei in his first start, but then again, it was against Colorado as a dog, and Colorado on the road is useless. So Texas on the road, also useless. Angels have been good at home. They're terrible on the road lately, but they win home games. I think that if you argue that the pitchers are a wash and the bullpen's arguably a wash, I'll take the better offensive team, especially at home. I'll go with the Angels.
Got to do it. All right, Scott. Well, that just leaves us one left, and that's good timing because it's time for our favorite segment. It's the segment that we always end the show with. You and I put our heads together. We have taken a look at all the games across the spectrum, all 4 of them, and we have come up with our favorite play. Hey, guys, put on your overalls, climb up on board that John Deere tractor, start talking Cajun like Blake Clark did in The Water Boy, because it's time for Bet the Farm. All right. Well, for you astute followers along, you'll notice that there is one baseball game that we did not mention. And of course, that is going to be the Mariners and the Astros, as my boy Yasei Kikuchi goes against Lance McCullers Jr. for the Stros. We are going to play the first 5 under 4.5. That's minus 105 at BetMGM, guys. Now, each of the last 4 meetings in this series have had less than 4 runs in the first 5 innings. Lance McCullers has been very good against the M's all season long. He has made 3 starts, 3.18 ERA. And we mentioned the Cooch. The Cooch is going for Seattle. And we just had this game, Scott. This is a rematch of a contest that we had less than a week ago. He faced Houston, and he did well, giving up just 4 hits, 2 walks, no runs in 7 innings, did the Cooch. And McCullers, you know what? He did pretty well as well. He went the first 5 before he gave up a run. We think we get a little bit of a repeat performance. At least one of these pitchers should give up 0 or 1. And we think that leaves us plenty of meat left on the bone there to still go under in the first 5. So that is going to be our one and only official Bet the Farm play. Mariners, Astros, first 5 under 4.5.
I'm kind of surprised it was minus 105. I thought it was going to be closer to minus 110, minus 115.
Yep.
But you look at the last couple of meetings, the last 3 meetings, 7 runs or less. The last 2 meetings, 5 runs. That's for the entire game.
Yep.
Astros actually got shut out in each of the last 2 meetings. I don't know if they're pricing it in based on what happened earlier in the season. These last couple of meetings have been low scoring.
I'm happy with it. All right, and that's going to do it for our Bet the Farm play. And that is going to do it for Winners and Winers Radio Monday edition. We appreciate you guys listening. For all of you over there on the YouTubes, we appreciate you watching. Don't forget to drop us a comment. For myself, for Scott Reichel, for the whole team at Winners and Winers Radio, wishing you guys nothing but the best. Hope every one of those tickets in your pocket turns into cash money when you head back to the window. You guys have a great day. Thanks again, and we'll see you tomorrow on Winners and Winers Radio. Take care, everybody.